Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Circle Podcast. I'm very excited to have a guest with me. Again, my name is Lee Jackson, and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is at Circle Podcast, and across our social media at Circle OGX. Today, we have a very special guest, and that is Vincent Tatum, President of Grand Canyon Development Partners. And we're going to be talking about a lot of fun things and what's going on in Vegas today. Hey Vincent, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here finally.
Yeah.
I think I've been asking you for a while now, right?
I know, I apologize.
You're busy.
Yeah, just a little busy, but that's still no excuse. I apologize for
No
making you
worries.
wait for so long, but I'm really excited about the opportunity to do this with you.
So tell us about yourself and this exciting things that we're hearing out here that you're the new president at GCDP, Grand Canyon.
Yes, yes, the announcement was officially made and the transition took place in January of this year.
Okay.
It's something that I'm really excited about and proud of. I've been working with Grand Canyon Development Partners now for a little more than 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And over the past, I want to say 2 years or so, Sam Nicholson, who's the founder and owner of the company, him and I have been working together extremely closely on specifically a succession plan around making sure that leadership is in place for many years to come as he eventually gets to the point to where he transitions out of his successful career into doing things that he loves to do. I won't call it retirement because it's not ever going to be retirement for someone like that.
Right.
But no, the actual president transition has been amazing, and the employees have been incredibly supportive. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to do some great things moving forward.
So 9 years at Grand Canyon. So you were EVP.
Yes.
Have you always been an EVP there, or were you other positions?
I started off originally as vice president.
Okay.
And then I was promoted to executive vice president around 2017, I
Okay.
believe. Right.
All right. Well, that's a great step, right,
Yeah.
to where you are. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell everyone what GCDP is about. Like, you're development partners, but what are you, and or what kind of company you are, and what kind of clients that you acquire?
Yes. That's a loaded question sometimes
I know.
because terms get thrown around a lot that I'm not sure if everyone always knows exactly what it means. So
Yeah.
we brand ourselves as development managers, and specifically what we are is we are effectively consultants
Okay.
for our clients who are owners or business owners or folks that have some type of entrepreneurial ambition that is around the built environment where they need to build something. So we represent those clients in guiding them through the full development life cycle, which includes everything from land acquisition, entitlements, permitting. The more obvious ones that I think people are more familiar with would be the design management and the construction management side.
Okay.
So that is definitely a bread and butter aspect of what we do. And then we also manage things like the FF&E purchasing, the OS&E purchasing, a lot of the direct vendor engagements, meaning any type of specialty systems that are done by integrators or specialty vendors around technology deployments. So we'll manage that process as well.
Okay.
So it's really everything that it takes to effectively deliver a turnkey solution from business and design concept vision through it being open to the public.
Okay. So I know you've got some really cool, fun projects going on. The big one is St. Jude's Ranch, right?
Yes, that's certainly one of
the
them.
Healing Center.
Yes.
How's that going?
It's going great. I mean, we've been working with them for many years now. This is actually one of projects that we've had in the past.
Oh.
We've had several projects with them in the past, but
Okay.
no, this one's really exciting. Design is officially complete at this point, and it's in for permit. So
Okay.
we're just waiting for all of the rest of the moving parts to come together, and then we'll start construction.
So I know Christina very well.
Mhm.
Dr. Christina Rillen.
Yes.
Right. So they had another event not too long ago about it, and we saw the renderings, we saw the pictures, and it looks really, really beautiful.
Yes.
So that project is about a $15 million project, is that correct?
I believe so. I don't
Okay.
have the exact numbers off the
Yeah.
top of my head. Yeah.
Okay. And so you're just managing it, and you basically hired all the team to build it, right?
Yes, I mean
Okay.
it's a facilitation of a design process, and also in the environment when it comes to like the nonprofits, a big part of what we also assist with is finding folks who also want to give back through things like in-kind donations or through donating their time, their services, or materials. So a big part is working with the community to try to find effective ways to bring quality deliverables to the project. We're not just looking for anything that is going to degrade the quality of the build, but certainly, there's many contractors and firms in town that are very professional, and it means a lot to them to be a part of something as important like what they're doing out there at St. Jude's.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of materials being offered, a lot of time. We've given a lot of our time as part of a pro bono approach to helping them through the design process.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
And this is something that's just incredibly important to us as a firm to continue to be a part
Yeah.
of the community that we live in. And St. Jude's is just one of the ones that we participate in to give back.
So speaking of nonprofits, I mean, I know you guys are really involved, right?
Involved in the community by doing things like guest speaking events and working with a lot of the high schools. So I myself participate in a lot of the speaking engagements with the local high schools about educating them around the construction industry as a whole. And I think more importantly is just helping them see and understand that at their young age that that their path doesn't have to be so defined or constricted to where at that young age they're feeling like every decision that they're making is going to set the course for them for the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times in those types of discussions, it starts off with how the construction industry can be a space for them to grow as future developers and leaders and contractors and laborers, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it often does turn into more of a philosophical kind of conversation around just life choices and just how to be a good, ultimately employee or working citizen, right?
I like that.
Yeah, so we give back in that regard as well, and then we obviously donate in terms of funds and goods to different causes, and we participate in various events, whether they're running events or walking events or dealing in things in like building housing for folks and shelters. I mean, our employees are so involved in so many different things, even beyond the things that the company kind of brands as their own corporate involvement. The employees themselves are involved individually in their own different causes and things that they support.
So if there are any other organizations out there that want to, let's say, work with you all, is that decided on an annual basis? Like, do they contact your marketing department? How does that work?
Oh, actually, that's a really good question. At this point, we have been fortunate enough to have developed a reputation of being involved in the community. So a lot of the community that supports each other in that space, in the nonprofit space, oftentimes will refer us to others. And what we'll end up doing is we'll sit down with them and try to understand exactly what the potential need is, and then we'll come up with a solution of what may be best suited for where they are in that particular environment. We get a lot of nonprofits that are in the visionary stage, right? And they're in the fundraising stage, and they're simply just looking for support on understanding how much things may cost, how long things may take. So we do a lot of that where it's just on an as-come basis. If someone asks and we have the capacity, we'll certainly help them with just getting that. And then for the ones that are fortunate enough to move forward into a formal design and construction process, that's where we'll help, kind of the way I explained before, in terms of managing the actual process and looking for others in the community to support.
I love working with kids, right, with youth, especially high school age. I think that's a very important age where kids are being influenced, right? And if they didn't have anyone or don't have parents to teach them about, their careers, being an entrepreneur, being an executive, things like that. I wonder, when you're talking to the youth, is that something? Does that take you back to when you were a kid? Like, did you have people that influenced you to become who you are today? Did you think you were always going to be in this construction world?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And
Did you play football too?
I did. I
Okay.
did. Now, and I'll explain a little bit on that because it's one of the things that I wish that when I am speaking to the youth, I'd
Mhm.
like to believe in my fantasy world of people being able to understand perspective, that the message I'm trying to convey from the space that I'm in now
Mhm.
is relatable to where they are at their young age.
Yeah.
And I know the reality of it is even given my own background, when you're that young, you're not necessarily interested in hearing what someone our age has to say.
Right.
There's a
Right.
thought process that it's not relatable, or
Yeah.
it's just a different set of circumstances. So definitely when I talk to them, I try to explain to them that you don't have to have all the answers.
Right.
And to answer your question directly, when I was young, I was fortunate enough to have a very loving family. My
Mhm.
mom and dad have been together, still
Mhm.
are together for 50 plus years married. So I had an amazing foundational base of, I think, of just general hard work ethic and
Mhm.
respect for others.
Mhm.
But when it starts getting into whether I knew I would be doing this at that age, 100% the answer was no. At the time, I thought I was going to be the next football star. Both my brother and my father were very good football players who had the opportunity to play at the next level, and I just assumed that that was going to be my path, and that was all I was focused on.
Really?
And very quickly, as I was getting ready to graduate, it became apparent that I wasn't going to be doing that. So it was a place for me where I was very confused on what am I going to do? What do I want to be? And when I got into college, I changed my major 3 times, and it took me 5 years to get through. And
What was your major?
originally it was originally it was computer science, because I wanted to be a video game programmer. And then it moved into elements
Interesting.
it moved into elements of art, because I thought for a brief
You wanna be
period
an
that I
artist.
could take the computer science basis and then do things like CGI or computer
Okay.
animation for movies.
Yeah. Nice.
And then I realized, you know what? None of those things are really speaking to me. And
Are you not a gamer? Are you a gamer?
I'm a big gamer. I'm a big gamer. Yes, people know that I have a very passionate nerd side for the gaming. No offense to any of the nerds out there. I'm a fellow nerd. But no, I ultimately landed on international studies in Japanese. And the backstory to how I came to that was actually because I wasn't a very good student in high school. Right, I really wasn't focused on the academic side.
Because you were playing football.
I thought I was playing football. I thought I was playing well enough to where I didn't need to focus as much on the academics. So ultimately, when I went to college, I didn't have the necessary language credits, for high school. And I said, me being me at that time, I said, what's the fastest way that I can get this requirement done?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was Japanese, Chinese, and Arabic were the languages that were considered more difficult. And if I could just make it through one semester of any one of those 3,
Okay.
then I don't have to do the full year for things like Spanish and French that were like 3 credits versus 6. And what I found is I got into this class that I barely wanted to take, and I just excelled at being able to pick up the language naturally, and I fell in love with the culture and the people, and that is actually how I ended up changing my entire major, was around what can I do to be involved with using the Japanese language and be in the Japanese culture.
So you lived in Japan
I did.
for how long?
Total 5.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So I actually went to college there. When I was in college here in the U.S., I did an exchange program where I went to college in Osaka.
Nice.
And then when I came back from that exchange program, I then graduated, and then I ended up joining ROTC and became an Army officer, where then I was stationed in Japan after I went through, all the requirements after you graduate. So I ended up living in Japan after college for another 5 years or so.
And you speak fluent
I-
Japanese?
I usually say fluent, but the reality of it is
Yeah.
to not offend those who are actually fluent. I speak very, very well in terms of what I would call everyday Japanese. I could live there and work there and be totally fine with my level of Japanese.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into fluent and like for the actual ratings and categories.
Yeah.
I don't want to insult anyone that actually is fluent to where they are paid as a professional to do so. But no, I can live there and totally be fine in the culture.
So do you use the language for business, or is that just
No.
Okay.
No. No, I did get a chance to use the language quite a bit when I was actually stationed there. So I did pass the proficiency test in the military to formally be classified as a Japanese speaker.
Yeah.
And in my last position in the military, I was an aide-de-camp to a 2-star general there. He was the general of Japan, and one of my duties that were required in an unofficial capacity was to coordinate with other Japanese government officials, etc., on logistics, like where we were going, what we were doing.
Okay.
But to be clear, I was never allowed to formally translate for him. So in any type of formal setting, there were actually rotating groups of professional translators who were assigned to whatever that diplomatic purpose was.
Okay.
So no, it was a
That's
very
fun.
interesting time. It was
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that when you're younger,
Yeah.
you get exposure to life. And again, it goes back to what we were just talking about with the high school kids. I had no idea anything about construction or development at that point. All I thought I was going to do was live and work in a country that I had this newfound love and respect for. And
But no one told you about that. You just kind of you were trying to get out of or get your credits, and you just figured it out because you were short on credits.
Yes.
So you figured that out all on your own.
Yes, but I don't want it to make it seem like I had this like clairvoyant vision of how I was going to navigate through the world. No, I mean, I was truly doing it to satisfy a checkbox at first. And from that point on, I was fortunate to have people like my professors and some of the counselors say, hey, these programs are available where you can study abroad. And I had no idea that I would be able to do something like that.
But I think that's part of how you teach yourself about life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of high school students need to hear that. I'll share a quick story with you when I was in college. I'm not very proud of my college path either. It was kind of like when, mom sent me to school and it was like freedom, you know what I mean? So at the end of my freshman year, I had to do whatever it took to change my grade. I won't tell you the reason because I really don't need to know all this. But I talked to my teacher. If I didn't change my grade, my mom would probably not let me go back to school. She would probably kept me at home because I had too much fun my freshman year. So I had to figure something out in order to get that grade changed so that my mom would let me come back to school. So, I was just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was in my head already. I'm thinking all she has to say is no, right? So I went to her, begged her to let me do extra credit work in order to change that grade. The grade was already done. Like we already got our, grades. And I begged her. I don't know what I said, but I just said, please, or my mom's going to kill me and you're probably going to be responsible for my death. So she let me do it and she changed my grade. So from then on, I'm never afraid to ask people because all they have to say is no. If they say no, it's not forever, everything's temporary.
I love that story. And
Yeah.
I was just speaking at a school event a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, where that same thing came up around what's the worst that can happen by just asking.
Exactly.
And the other piece that I struggled with in high school is I wanted to be such the cool guy that was in the popular crowd that going against the grain was not something I was willing to do. Meaning, if it wasn't popular to go ask about something, I wasn't going to do it.
Right.
So no, to your point, I'm a firm believer that people who ask and express, in your case, your ambition to have your grade changed, but in other cases, ask around what does it take to get to a certain outcome, whether it's a promotion or whether it's a career field change. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you if they believe it's genuine and that you are actually going to see it through.
Nothing is impossible.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
So let's take this back to where you are today. You know, there's a lot of changes going on in Vegas. Formula One is coming in November. Super Bowl is coming next year. There's so much happening, and we have XFL now. Yes. I don't know if you saw the game recently, the first one here.
I only saw the highlights.
Interesting, right? There's a lot of things happening. So where do you see Vegas in 5 years when it comes to development? Like, what do you think between 5 years and 10 years from now? Because I've been here 7.5 years, and oh my gosh, the change since BGK, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's very interesting now. It feels like we have a little bit of culture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first moved
community.
here. And community, right? Like something to rally behind.
Yeah.
Seeing even the Knights license plates and the Raiders license plates, particularly the ones with the Nevada plates, not the California ones, because we know that might be coming from LA. But no, I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're very much going to be a sports town, right? I mean, you've got the F1, which is incredible, right? And
it's 10 years they signed now, right?
Right.
It's
and
crazy.
You got Super Bowl here next year, and you know, I'm a big Raiders fan, so I'm hoping some of the choices that we make around our quarterback situation puts us in the Super Bowl next year, but we'll see. But you've got that, and then you've also got the talks around what's going on with the Major League Baseball, and then there's some discussion around soccer. And then NBA has always been on kind of like the tips of tongues of people around it's coming, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely think in 5 to 10 years we'll have all the major sports, leagues here, and then that is going to end up spinning off all types of other ancillary, business types and cases. I mean, the one beautiful thing about Vegas is that we can adapt to really any opportunity, and I think you're going to start seeing a lot more sports betting type environments that are maybe more themed around the sports betting, but also the interaction of the sporting event itself. I think you're going to see a lot more, places for people to congregate to specifically celebrate these sports, right?
Yeah.
Like, so maybe not so much in the sports betting aspect of things, but just sporting viewing venues that are heavily invested in that. But and also what I see, because that's really on the sports side, which I'm obviously excited about. But the housing, the multifamily housing sector is going to continue to thrive.
Yeah.
The industrial sector is going to continue to thrive.
I love what I saw the other day, Evora. I went to a new restaurant that just came out. It's a mid-rise, all glass, right? So and what you see are the offices and restaurants on the very bottom. I mean, you see that in New York and places like that, but this is kind of new to Vegas.
Yes, yeah.
I love that. Are you guys doing a lot of projects like that?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We currently have little more than 3,600 units of multifamily that are either in design or currently under construction.
Oh, wow.
So it's a significant piece of our business, right? And seeing that. And what I think you'll start to see is there'll be this sector of multifamily that is after specifically those with disposable income and people who want a higher end living environment. And then you'll find that there'll still be a space for all of the garden style type apartments and things for, what I would call more accessible living options as well.
Okay.
And the other interesting thing that we see is the amenities that you often find, right, like in these hospitality type environments that you see obviously on the Strip, are starting to come over into, some of these multifamily projects where we're now seeing movie theater rooms, we're seeing golf simulators, we're seeing, pools that rival some of the pools that you find in like the resorts. I mean, obviously
you mean
not as
in
large.
Actual homes? When you say multifamily, it's like condos?
Right. Well, in this particular case, we're talking about the apartment offerings.
Okay.
Where the tenants are now having access as part of their amenity set in the apartments themselves, is having access to these common area facilities.
Yeah. I love that.
It's exciting. It's interesting to see where it goes, and it's interesting to see how the pricing of the benefits of having access to all these amenities, how it ends up translating into things like rents, which we all know is a concern in terms of rising costs and just housing shortage as a whole.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out.
So I'm going to ask you about you and GCDP. As the new president, how many employees do you guys have right now?
Just around 30.
And 30, okay. What is your management style?
My management style? Well, I would say my management style is lead by example. There's nothing I would ask my employees to do that I wouldn't be willing to do myself or haven't done myself. I'd like to believe that I can serve as an inspiration and a motivation for the employees around quality service, hard work, dedication. I would also say the human element of what we do. I mean, we're literally building people's dreams, right? Many of our clients, this is their first time ever doing anything, and some of them are not always these very large projects where you have institutions backing them. You know, you see a lot of them where it's family money that has been saved to try to finally make something better for themselves. And I think that human level of connecting with the client and connecting with our partners, right? I mean, we can't do any of this without the design community and the contractor community and the supplier community. And we're, at the end of the day, we're all people, and people like to do business with people that that they like.
Yeah.
So I'd like to believe that showing that compassion and that dedication towards helping people build their dreams is an inspiration to those that work at Grand Canyon. And I don't see them as employees or subordinates or anything. I mean, these are our partners. These are oftentimes friends. These are people that I've known for a very long time in the industry.
Yeah.
And they certainly have the capability where they could go somewhere else and execute on the skills that they have, and they choose to be there, I believe, because of that culture and mentality around community, around giving back, around excellence, and looking to do and be the best version of you. So that ultimately is the environment that I look to sustain and grow upon. Sam Nicholson, the original founder of the company, that's what he has built.
Yeah.
When there were just one employee himself.
Yeah.
Up till now. So it's certainly not reshaping or remolding anything. It's just building upon some of the great and hard work that he's already established.
Okay. So the construction industry, less than 10% is under Black leadership. You being a Black male as the president, how significant is that to you and to the company?
That's an interesting question, because for me, I understand, obviously I can't hide my skin, right? And I've always come from a place of wanting to be the best version of myself, whether it was my attempts at being a great athlete or being a business professional, and that I always focus on the value, and I focused on the craft, and I focused on the relationships. And race for me was always something that was not in my forefront of where I chose to spend my time and focus on. I understood that it's always a thing, right? It's hard to ignore the fact it's always in the media. It's always being plastered somewhere to remind us of that. But it wasn't what drove me. But also, I understand that as a leader, you also serve as hopefully a beacon of inspiration, hopefully as a role model for those that want to see people that look like them in places where they like to go, because they may not have that at home, or they may not have that regularly in their lives. So I believe it's incredibly important that that I can be possibly that type of inspiration for someone.
Yeah.
In terms of the company itself, we're very diversified, both in terms of race and gender. and as you get into more aspects of diversity, right? I mean, there's sexual preferences, all types of things, and you name it, we have it in terms of the lovely employees and folks that we have working at Green King, and we are very diversified. And I think when you look at companies in terms of potential clients and you look at their initiatives, there's certainly clients that are interested in working with companies that look like the communities they serve or
Sure.
the patrons that they serve. So I think there's almost like a two-part conversation around my role and being diverse. That is a inspirational community point of interest, and then I think there's a corporate objective point of interest as well, where corporations are looking to make sure that they are giving those a proper chance and break down barriers that maybe have existed for a long time. So I think it's something that I'll probably get more comfortable in recognizing as I grow as a leader myself, to understand the weight and magnitude of what you do, what it may mean to other people.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see that, especially as I speak at the schools, and some of the schools I speak at are, heavily minority, based student population.
Right.
And it's been expressed that people are encouraged to see someone that looks like them, doing things that they maybe one day hope to do themselves. So.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's really inspirational, right, to these kids, especially in very diverse schools, where it's heavily on the minority side. To see you being where you are, in this company, they're like, oh, I can be that, I can do that too, that kind of a thing. So, you wonder, eventually one day we're going to stop saying you're the first of this, she's the first of that, the first of everything. But we're still at that point, sadly, in 2023. There's still a lot of firsts, right? The world is changing, as we all know, and to see more diversity, we're both diverse, as far as who we are in the company, and so I've had to learn as well. I never really thought about it very much until it mattered, right? And that's when it sticks out. And it didn't really happen a whole lot until, I didn't really realize it until much later. Oh, yeah, I am different, kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to perspective, right? Like when you asked me the question at the beginning of me as a high school student, I wasn't interested in any of this.
Yeah.
Meaning the industry, talk about, I just wanted to hang out and play sports, and even growing as a professional, it became very much around, I just want to focus on me to be the best professional I can be, because I don't feel that I'm there yet. And until I'm there yet, how can I possibly help others if I'm not where I want to be, right?
Yeah.
And then it shifts to, okay, you finally, quote unquote, made it to a level where you now have proven your professional capability, at least up to that point. Other people are looking at you and they're asking you questions, and as uncomfortable as it may be to shift from being more focused on you and your well-being, now it's starting to require other people to be considered, where not only as a leader in a business where literally people's livelihoods depend on the types of decisions you make, you may be influencing other professionals, younger generation, older generation, in inspiring them to finally do something that maybe they were scared to do because they didn't think that they deserved it.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of perspective, and it can be a little daunting sometimes. It takes some getting used to having these types of conversations, but I think they're important.
I think you're handling it well.
We'll see.
So Circle is an omnichannel guest experience agency. We're all about helping clients and acquiring clients, right? To help you grow your business. So how do you get your name out there? How do you acquire your clients?
Okay, that's an interesting question in terms of, I think the response may not be as you may expect, right? I mean, we're a business that fortunately has built a great brand and a great reputation here in town. And because of that, we oftentimes do get referred. Those referrals will often come from the partners that we actually manage in terms of architects and contractors who see that their client, who they may have already had an existing relationship or a new relationship, they see that they need help and they know our capabilities, so they make the connection and say, you need some help, you should look at hiring Grand Canyon. That's one channel.
Let me make a point on that, because I've worked for a couple of construction companies, and it seems like that's what I hear all the time. We get a lot of referrals, and it's the owners, right? A particular company in Phoenix, I mean, they've been around for 30 years. 40 actually, 40 years. And there wasn't really a business development person, and it's all based on word of mouth. Because you've done so much business, you've done a great job, and it's always the owners, right? They have connections and they know people, and they always come back. So when you're trying to grow your business, with you coming on as president, I'm sure there are certain goals that you all want to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years. Is referrals, is that enough, right? What are other things that you're doing that would increase?
Yeah, I think if you're specifically talking about growth, I don't think referrals is enough, right? I think referrals is great for maintaining, workload that, obviously workload, right? It ebbs and flows based on the economy and things, but generally speaking, there's a rhythm and a pattern to the referral as it speaks to the core business pipeline, right? When you start getting into growth, I think that's a complicated question, because it starts to raise the question of, are you talking about growth within your existing set of business services that you already offer? Are you talking about offering new services? Are you going into new markets? And I think for all of those different variables, the omnichannel approach changes, right? Because you could argue if it's just about growth in terms of generating more revenue around what you already do, it may turn into, are we more top of mind with the people who have been referring us, right? Are we touching the bags enough to where we're just more relevant because we're being talked about more often, right? And then that means the referrals can come in. If you're talking about going into a whole new sector or a new market, it's very likely that that referral source is not that gateway into that, because if it was, they probably would have been referring you in the first place, right? So it changes the question of, are you even speaking to the right group? So it really varies, and what I can tell you for us as a firm, we have a very strong social media and marketing campaign that's driven by our marketing manager at the company, and we spend a lot of time talking about, like, who do we want to be, where do we want to be as a company, how does that message get out to the audience that we are looking to have it heard by. And there's a lot of exploration in trying to figure out exactly what is the right mix, right? Because I'm not convinced that it's a single right answer. I think it's a solution set of tools that you deploy depending on what you're looking for. And there's probably a optimal set of things that you can do, and right now we as a firm are trying to figure that out. If you talk about things like going into whole new sectors like the public side, very different what I would guess marketing and client outreach campaign in that regard than if you're doing things on the private side. So it really depends on, I guess, how you define growth and and how those different clients react to, or not even sometimes react. Sometimes they're not even allowed to engage in ways that we may typically try to get clients, right? So I think it's diverse.
Who is GCDP? Like, is that defined already? Like, if someone was to say, who are you as a company, right? I mean, are there a lot of competitors? Are you like number one? Are you in the top 5? Where do you see GCDP?
Where do we see GCDP?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so to answer kind of a part of your question,
Yeah.
when we talk about competitors, we have to look at it from a different lens than what most businesses do, and I'll explain that. We tell people all the time that to build a project, by law, you have to have an architect, you have to have engineers, you have to have contractors, right? These are licensed professionals that exist solely for the purpose of getting your project done that you have to use. You have no choice.
Yeah.
A company like Grand Canyon Development Partners is not one that is required to build a project. So it raises the question of, so why have we been successful in doing what we do? Right? And that is, in my opinion, providing that objective sounding board and consultation service from a very technical perspective to a client to help them through something that many times they don't understand or they don't have the resources to perform on their own. So that's one part of the response. The other piece, when we talk specifically about competitors, oftentimes our competition is just lack of awareness. There's a lot of people that don't know that this profession that my firm represents even exists. They don't know it exists. So you'll often hear stories of people who've gone through projects and said, man, I wish if I had just known that even your craft existed, I would have hired you, let alone Grand Canyon being a firm that they knew about, which is a different matter. But when you look at the way we engage, another form of competition is people who just decide to do it themselves. They say, I'm aware that you exist. They oftentimes have the perception that they can't afford someone to help them like that, and they just say, I'm baked already, I have to do this, I'm going to do it myself. You then get competition in the form of very experienced, I'll call them clients, who have their own internal development management team. And they will just choose to do it themselves because they have the resources and the know-how. And oftentimes they end up being the same ones that ask us to come augment them. So our competition mix is very different than a lot of other companies. It's not the traditional go out and get 3 bids, and I mean certainly we see that, but a lot of our engagements are based on value, the value proposition of what we bring to the table, and oftentimes it's through negotiation and referrals from trusted partners that puts us in a position to where we can demonstrate that value in a way that is not so prescribed around, like, say, a competitive bidding process. Right? So we just go to market a little differently, and our market considerations are very different than what I would say an architect, engineer, contracting firm would have to go through.
What % of your business is commercial and versus residential?
Well, to clarify, right, we don't do residential as it relates to like single family homes, right? So residential, as I'm explaining it now, would be multifamily. I'd say multifamily probably represents about 25 to 30% of our market share of the types of projects we have in our portfolio. And then the commercial side, again, very wide range. There's hospitality, there's office, there's retail, entertainment, F&B. That aspect probably fulfills another 60-65% of it. And I would say that last piece would be some of the things like the nonprofit related stuff that we do, the cultural arts related stuff that we manage as well.
So switch up to technology, right? I mean, this world is changing so much with AI. And I'm seeing all these images on social media. I mean, robots, right? That's being created to help build things. In fact, 2 days ago, I saw an actual robot that was picking up wood pieces and putting it together to build the foundation of a home. I don't remember what country it was, but we probably know what country it is. How do you see, with all these technology that's happening, how do you see the construction industry evolving in the next 5 or 10 years?
I'll answer that by saying I think you have to recognize already how the construction industry has changed, right? To see how it can potentially build upon what it's already gone through. I mean, we're already seeing AI in things like manpower management and evaluating labor resources and productivity. We see AI in the form of security and surveillance, where it's not uncommon to have a site, construction site being monitored remotely, where algorithms and AI is evaluating kind of a set parameters of conditions, and they can detect when something is off to notify a human. So I think you'll see things like that when you're in the building environment, meaning the active construction environment. And then when you get into the post construction and the things that we build that meet the intents of a service offering, AI is going to continue to change the game. I mean, we see it in terms of how clients are using automation, in terms of having interconnectivity between different amenities, things like the stuff that we see at home, like like Alexa. You're seeing those types of systems deployed now in a multifamily environment, controlling doors and hardware, package receiving notifications, and everything is connected. We also see it in the retail environment where, I have someone that always tells me this, or they say that, if you're getting a service for free, that means that you are, right, the product that's being sold. And what we see specifically, like in internet access, Wi-Fi access, there are some very savvy, clients out there that are leveraging that data that is being aggregated through people who are using those built systems to understand things like your purchasing behavior, or to entice you to go check out more on-premise offerings that maybe you wouldn't have known, right? They ping you and show you that, hey, you haven't been to this restaurant yet, you should go here. So I think there's aspects of the built and the post-built environment that we as development managers are communicating to clients so that they're aware that in order to take effect of those things, you have to build it into the building at the beginning, or at least have the infrastructure to support it later on. So I think you'll see that when it gets into things like design management, document management. I mean, the technologies that are there for things like clash detection and BIM modeling. I think that's going to continue to become powerful, where there's going to be automated notifications of clash and conflict of scopes of work. When I see some of this stuff with like Chat GPT and some of these other intelligence offerings, I'm trying to figure out how that may have a role in construction, in terms of maybe some automation around report writing, or even some things around maybe dictation of when you're doing punch walks, and how you aggregate maybe what was said versus what was documented. I think there's a lot of space for that to come along as well. So, construction has not been known for being fast adopters of technology, and I think that there will continue to be a lag behind other sectors, but I do think it will continue to push the baseline up.
Are you using ChatGPT?
I am not, but I have been following it, and I find it very interesting. But I don't personally use it, and we certainly don't use it yet in any type of professional capacity.
It's over 100 million subscribers. It's the fastest growing app out there right now. But the only thing I was reading about it, I think the only thing that is questionable about it is it tends to be, there's certain questions out there about it being biased. I mean, it's as smart as whoever creates it, right? So.
Well, it's also aggregating information, and I'm smiling because I find it very interesting, because there's also reports of it being very pessimistic, or it being violent, or these other things where it's like, whoa, this is starting to turn into some like Terminator type stuff coming into reality, right? But I think we also have to recognize that it is a tool to utilize information that's already existing, and if you prompt it to do certain things, it's going to continue to follow down that path. One thing actually I think is very interesting, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but AI as it relates to art, I think could end up affecting the design industry, and that it's already affecting industries that rely heavily on concept design for things like character design or character modeling for video games or movies, where you can literally prompt the program for the types of concepts you're looking for, and it will spit out what would have taken artists weeks to do, it can spit this out in a matter of minutes, seconds.
I mean, you're already seeing that with the avatars.
Yes.
I mean, it's basically a different formulation, but that's what you're seeing already. So yeah.
I think it has a space where it can inform maybe some design concepting approach where people want to see certain types of optionality, where instead of waiting for renderers to go and put it together, like maybe it's being used as a support tool to come up with a lot of ideas that then a human then takes to craft it to something that speaks to the client. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't think you'll ever take away the interpretation of the human interaction side.
We hope not.
Either I hope that I'm not around to see it myself,
right.
or yes. But no, I think there's a space where it can really be powerful, and then I think there's a space where it can probably be abused. So.
It's funny that you mentioned Terminator. I was going to ask you, how far do you think we are from Terminator? It's a question that I always, we've seen the movies, right? I mean, when I see these robots, I'm just like, we're not that far.
What I always tell people, again, speaking from my military background, just be aware that what you're seeing is what's intended to be shown. The scarier stuff is what you don't see.
Yeah.
And what's being worked on.
Good point.
I think that we're almost there when it comes to the automation and sensors and technology to be able to create some scary stuff, right? When it comes to, like, when you formally look at like Terminator and what it was, there's already stuff out there that can automate, weapon systems and things. I think the part that most people associate with your question is the whole Skynet aspect of this thing becoming sentient and knowing how to. I like to believe that that won't happen anytime soon, and you would hope that even if we could get machines to learn to do things like that, that there'd be some moral compass around truly preventing that. But if history is any tell of what the future will be, then I don't know if that really is unrealistic, that we couldn't end up with something where technology is getting out of control.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I said, I hope that by that point I'm long gone. And,
Same.
Yeah, and then we'll let the high schoolers who we were just talking about, they can
take over and
combating
handle
robots.
That.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, we've spent a lot of time and covered a lot of topics. It's been really interesting. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
If anyone out there wanted to reach out and connect with you, I'm sure they have a lot of questions, about your high school programs that you go to, about your career path, about GCDP, Grand Canyon Development Partner status. How can I get a hold of you? You're on LinkedIn.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Vincent Tatum. They can always go to our website, grandcanyoninc.com.
Okay.
Other ways, you can just Google us and call the office. We're very personable and open to talking to anybody. Again, it goes back to that comment that you made earlier about, what does it hurt to just ask?
Right.
So we do have internships that we offer for students, and we also partner with the military. We have several veterans that are on staff that have come directly out of active duty service, because we believe in providing a platform for that also to happen. And we are hiring. We're always looking for amazingly talented people, or people who just have a good work ethic, that are willing to learn an industry that has a tremendous amount to offer.
What certain positions are you hiring for right now?
Project management staff, varying levels of seniority and experience, but project management staff,
And internships, when does that normally start?
We don't have any particular cycle that follows a school, program. It's really more around, the opportunity of who the person may be and what their specific circumstances.
Is that paid internship?
Right now, and particularly in the programs that we do with the military, those are paid.
Okay.
We don't have any internships in terms of students right now. Most of our interns are coming from military programs, so that's paid.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Anything else you want to talk about before we sign off?
No, I just want to thank you again for having me, and I think that these types of conversations are important. I'm happy to be a part of it. I feel privileged to be able to get that outside voice out there to the world for
Yeah.
people who may be interested in hearing it. And I look forward to maybe coming back in the future and talking about some other exciting things that
Absolutely.
are happening.
You
Yeah.
are welcome anytime.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. Please don't forget again to please follow us at Circle OGX across our social media, and our website is wearecircle.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and Spreaker at Circle Podcast. Until next time.
Bye.